Up next, we're going to have Ruben Cortez join us. Ruben?
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Doing good.
This is such a fun, I know, such a fun little setup here. We're having a great time. Thank you for joining us. As a reminder, we're here with our We Decide forum with candidates from SD27 running in the Democratic primary. Election day is March 3rd, correct? And early voting starts February 17th, I believe. So February 18th. So we're not too far off. It's a really important time for the voters in the community to know who the candidates are and where they stand on the issues that we care about most. So thank you for being here today. I wanted to give you just a couple minutes to introduce yourself to the audience and to the people watching.
Well, I'm Ruben Cortez, proud father of 4 kids, Sofia Natalia. Sophia with an F, like she likes to refer to herself. They get it wrong all the time. Ana Karina, Julieta Isabella, Ruben Cortez, and I have an amazing wife of 20 years. She's an elementary principal here in the city of Brownsville. I serve on the Texas Board of Education. Just got reelected to my 3rd term last November. And, you know, fighting for public education is something I take very serious. If you knew me, you knew my origin story growing up, you'd know that if there was 100 students in high school in that senior class and they ranked them the way they do today, I would have probably ranked 99th or 100. And it wasn't because I didn't understand what was going on. It was because, like a lot of our youth today, they come with a lot of emotional baggage, right? I grew up in a home where I was blessed to be loved by 2 parents, but in the situation that I was in, my father had alcohol abuse problem. And so we lived in a home where unfortunately there was domestic abuse. As a child, seeing this, you know, you carry these things into your life moving forward. And so growing up, I knew that I didn't want the same thing for my future, right? So when I got married and had kids, my wife and I would have these conversations, and for us, the most important thing is to make sure that our kids can grow up in a community that values them, that respects them. And so, you know, I've made it my life's work to fight for every one of the over 5.4 million kids in Texas public schools. And earlier this year, as we talked about the Senate race, I sat my kids down, sat my wife down, we all had a conversation. So, look, if y'all aren't in this, if we're not in this, if any one of you at this table says we shouldn't, you shouldn't, then I won't. And we sat and we went over all of the reasons why. And it would be real easy for me to be at home today. I just started a term. I don't need to be doing this. But when you're in Austin and you're a TA right across the street from the Capitol, you get to kind of peek behind the curtain of what goes on in Austin, what goes on in the Capitol. And when I first ran for this seat, and the first thing that I did back in 2012 when we were campaigning is I said, I want to have a campaign that doesn't make policy decisions from the boardroom to the classroom. I want to make decisions from the classroom to the boardroom. Novel idea, right? Let teachers tell us what they need so we can fix education, right? Policymakers aren't doing that. It was said earlier that, you know, you get these bureaucrats making these decisions in Austin that impact everybody in Texas, and we shouldn't govern that way. And so as I've gone on around this district, the district that I've been elected in already 3 times, the Senate seats 5 counties, within the 17 counties that I currently represent, I tell people as they ask, I said, we're gonna do the same thing. I don't plan on going to Austin so that I can tell you what I think you need. I'm gonna have town halls, I'm gonna have forums with every group, all these organizations that you mentioned a moment ago. I wanna sit with them. I wanna find out how can I make the life of every Texan better. And so we're in this race. We're in this race because I think people are ready and hungry for change. I think the voice of the Valley has been taken away by State Senator Eddie Lucio, and I think it's time that we reclaim our voice.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you also for deciding to run for office. Can you tell us, was there a specific moment or a specific issue where you were like, yes, I'm ready to run, and this is why? Why exactly did you decide to run and take on this big challenge?
You know, so for, like I mentioned before, when you're in Austin, you kind of see what goes on at the Capitol. You see some of this hateful legislation that comes out of the Senate, and continually you see this pattern. It comes out of the Senate, I won vote. this district, Senate District 27. And as I see some of these legislations that just come out, thankfully, not everything made it into law, but if we were in Luciolandia, I can tell you that we'd be in a very different Texas today. But I think the tipping point for me was that license to discriminate bill. As someone who serves on the Board of Education, for you to allow a counselor to, on the basis of a sincerely held religious belief, tell a student that because they're gay or lesbian that I can't counsel you. You know, oh, but if you're dying, then the doctor can make an exception, right? And you don't lose your license or certification to one of over 200 licenses or certification. What kind of state? Where do we draw the line on hate, on discrimination? And I think that was the time when I thought, I think I really need to start considering this. And ultimately, that was the time that just brought me to where we are today.
For those of you just tuning in, we are in the RGB with Ruben Cortez, one of the candidates running in the ST27 Democratic primary against the city incumbent, Senator Lucio. Senator Lucio was invited to participate today. He was unresponsive and did not participate, as you can see. We are glad that we have two candidates, Sarah Stapleton Barrera, other way around, and Ruben Cortez joining us today. Beatrix, I wanted to see if you had some follow-up to that. We were just talking about the licenses to discriminate bill this last session and the important work that you're doing in this community.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's really challenging because we already know off the bat that their youth in elementary schools and grade schools are essentially the most vulnerable when it comes to bullying, harassment amongst their peers. And so it's really important for them to have those spaces to be able to communicate with people, with real adults in their lives that are literally shaping their lives. And so it's important to yes, have people that are willing to have those conversations regardless of someone's identity or how they express themselves. So what other ways do you think our state senate is, or basically our state government is lacking in supporting their youth, and what would you do to uplift those voices if you were to be the candidate who was elected?
You know, I took my daughter to do college tours over the summer, and as I was walking down UT Austin, there was these set of doors along Congress, and they're all painted, and it says, "God's doors are open to you." You know, and I think our state senator seems to forget. I think that we need to be a more inclusive state, not exclusive. And I don't. That's not happening today. I think we should allow people to live their life, whatever life they want to live. Let them be productive citizens. Let them contribute to society. However they decide that they want to spend their time, so long as they're happy, what business is it of mine, right? As your state senator, you know, I'm not a healthcare expert. Why should I be making decisions? I'm a father of 3 girls and a son. I don't want any man, let alone any state senator, to tell them what they can and can't do. I want them to make their own decisions, right? And so, if I'm elected senator, that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm not going to focus on why they should take civil liberties away from anybody in the LGBTQ community. They're members of our community. We all bleed the same. We all wake up, we have good days, we have bad days, we have challenges, we have triumphs. Why are we going to treat anybody any different? Like my mom always says, todos hijos de Dios o todos hijos de Dios. We all have to be treated the same. And for me, it's not that difficult. You know, somebody asked me why I was taking on Goliath, and I told them, look, God put Goliath in my path because he believes there's a little bit of David inside of me. And I think we're going to kick his ass come March 3rd.
Thank you for that answer.
I mean, that was a perfect segue. Talking a little bit about your family and how you see your support on these issues. So personally, can you tell us about how issues related to reproductive health have impacted you personally and have shaped your views on reproductive health and rights?
You know, it's as a staunch Democrat, it was very disappointing to see that while Wendy Davis was fighting her legendary historic filibuster on the Senate floor. Eddie Lucio standing in some press gallery with Dan Patrick speaking against women's rights. The lone Democrat. The lone Democrat. You know, that kind of stuff impacts us, right? I mean, I heard you talk earlier about the bathroom bill. The Hidalgo County Democratic Party passed an anti-Eddie Lucio resolution that year. That year. That's never happened where a county party does that. The Texas Young Democrats passed an anti-Eddie Lucio resolution that same year. What does that tell you? I mean, and we go back a few decades, the farm workers, they wrote a corrido, Lucio contra la gente. I mean, what does this say? It's a pattern. This is a pattern. But media here is not like what you have in Austin. We don't have the Statesman or the Tribune or the Chronicle or the Dallas Morning News, San Antonio Express. We don't have that. We have the Brownsville Herald, the Valley Morning Star, and the McAllen Monitor. Sarah will tell you, they never write anything bad about this man. Never write anything bad about this man. The only way to beat him is to tell people, put his record on display for District 27 to see. And that's why I'm so glad that you guys are here, that you're doing what you're doing, and that at some point you're going to make a decision in which direction to go, because this is the only way we're going to take him down and take our voice back.
Well, we're here. This is Planned Parenthood Texas Votes at the We Decide Forum with the candidates from SB 27. We definitely want to educate the audience, those in the community and those watching online, about what is happening in the district, how they can get involved, who the candidates running, and where they stand on these issues. Speaking about legislation, this last legislative session, Senator Lucio did author and pass an anti-choice piece of legislation that just further compelled healthcare providers to provide inaccurate information to patients who are seeking abortion. So obviously we want to make sure that patients are provided with accurate information about abortion, that the public is provided accurate information about all reproductive and sexual health care, and that the public and the voters are educated about how their elected officials are representing them back in Austin. To that point, during the legislative session, the last session in 2019, extremist lawmakers pushed through SB 22, which was the dangerous anti-Planned Parenthood bill. It bans local governmental entities, including city and county health departments and school districts, from partnering with Planned Parenthood and other abortion providers. Local governments play an increasingly vocal role in reproductive rights, as we've seen with proposed bans in small Texas towns. If you were elected, would you author a bill to repeal SB 22, and how would you work, obviously, with your colleagues to help advance that?
So there's no question that Eddie Lucio and the Republican Party are going to do anything and everything, as you've seen historically, to limit a woman's right to have access to health care. I think I put an article on our social media page at Ruben Cortez for Texas on Facebook and Ruben for Texas on our Instagram that talks about a story that the Tribune, I think, wrote about pregnant moms and their limited access to health care and how they're dying. You know, every time that they vote for bills that restrict access and funding, they're complicit in that female's death. I mean, bottom line, they're complicit in that homicide. We can do better as a state. We should do better. What would I do? I'm not going to take it laying down. I mean, I serve on a board of education right now. There's 15 of us. There's 5 Democrats, 10 Republicans. We've fought the big hard fights against the Republican Party, and we've beat them. And we've gotten majority votes on issues, and we've moved the needle in public education way more than the board prior to us coming on a few years ago has. And so I'm not afraid to take on these guys. I'm not going to be a yes man for Dan Patrick. I'm going to be Dan Patrick's worst. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Dan Patrick's worst nightmare.
Dan Patrick's worst nightmare.
That's the strategy.
Yes.
Got it. Beatrix, I want to give you an opportunity to weigh in here as well.
Yeah, definitely. So we obviously know that, well, I just want to start off also, that all those newspapers in the Valley are the same company, the same media company, so hopefully they never write anything bad about Senator Lucio.
Important for people to know.
Important for people to know.
Where you're getting your news from.
And then also, So I want to bring this into the conversation, right? So when we talk about reproductive freedom, reproductive health care, we would say, for example, why should women in this district feel like electing another man is going to be the right choice for them?
You know, as a father, I tell my kids all the time. I think I mentioned it a minute ago. You know, I don't want any man making decisions for my kids. I don't want that decision to be between a state senator who doesn't agree with that woman's choice to make this law. I think Texas should just allow people to be who they are. You know, and I've never been one to discriminate against anybody. You know, as a parent, it's probably one of the greatest gifts that I've ever had the opportunity to do. My daughter had an opportunity to submit a paper just yesterday to one of her professors at Texas Southmost College talking about reproductive rights. There was a letter that she had to write to an elected official, and she read it to me last night. And it was a letter actually addressed to Eddie Lucio, and I wanted to bring it in. It was, I mean, as she read it, I mean, I was literally in tears. It was so well written. And so this idea that every man is going to do the same thing, you know, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I think even today, many state senators, at least on the Democratic side, are doing right by Texas women. I think the real problem in Texas today, and the biggest threat to women's rights, to LGBTQ rights, is Eddie Lucio. That's the common denominator. You remove him, and we eliminate so many unnecessary fights that will go into the Texas House. And so if I'm blessed enough to win this race, my job is going to be to defend women's rights, not to try to remove them. My job is going to be to fight for the civil liberties of our LGBTQ community, to fight for immigrant rights, to fight for public education. Look how long it took educators to get a raise, 10 years. They shouldn't have to wait a decade to get extra money. We don't want somebody who's there for the easy votes. We want somebody who's there during the hard votes.
Thank you for that answer.
Thank you. We have just a few minutes left, so I wanted to give you a chance to talk to the audience watching and hear for any other issues we didn't have a chance to cover that are really important to your campaign and that you would carry forward if you were elected to office.
So, like I said, I'm Ruben Cortez. You know, when we entered this race, it was a family decision. I literally sat with my 17-year-old, my 15-year-old, my now 14-year-old, my 11-year-old last week. He was 10 when we had this conversation. My wife, and other members of my family. We sat down and we talked about it. It would have been very easy for me to say, Diana and Beatrix, like I said, I stay at home. I'm in a position right now. I think I'm doing a good job. I'm fighting a good fight, but when I see the harm that Eddie Lucio is doing, I mean, there's this documentary that somebody shared with me the other day from the ACLU, as a matter of fact. They came over and visited with me. And they showed me a video. It's called Hunting Humans on Texas Highways. Hunting Humans on Texas Highways. Google it, watch it, but give yourself time to see it. Our state senator has done nothing to stop the almost $2.4 billion that is being spent militarizing our border with Department of Public Safety and tearing families during routine traffic stops, or because their tent was too dark. These people, some of them were leaving church and they're being deported on the spot because DPS is required to call Customs and Border Patrol. And our senator does nothing to stop this. This article that I mentioned about healthcare access, we've left billions of dollars on the table that could have been used to properly fund or to restore the funding that Planned Parenthood has lost, to fund other critical need areas for health. And this senator has done nothing to fight for those dollars. He's actually gone out and said that Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is the best lieutenant governor in modern history. Not even 2 weeks later, that same lieutenant governor is at a Donald Trump rally because he's the chair for the Donald Trump re-election campaign. And in Dallas, Dan Patrick said, make no mistakes, the Democrats are not our opponents. They are our enemies. This is the guy who fought for SB 4 and all of this other hateful legislation. And when he needs a bipartisan vote, who does he pick up the phone and call? Beatrix? Eddie Lucio. And what does Eddie do? Done. You got my vote. When he needs another bipartisan vote, what does he do? He picks up the phone and calls Eddie Lucio. Boom. And Eddie's there every time. So when Eddie decided Sarah and I were going to enter this race, what did he do? He called Dan Patrick. They were down here doing town halls and fundraising events. So he's out here bailing him out of this race. They're going to spend millions of dollars in this race. Not afraid of running against big money. If we have people power, we are going to kick his ass. Bottom line, people are ready for change. People are ready for us to reclaim our voice. Think of what's going to happen in 21. We're going to go into redistricting. To block any redistricting map, we need 13 votes in the Texas Senate. We're going to win back Senate District 19 in San Antonio. We're going to win it back in November. We're going to have the 13th vote, and guess who it's going to be? If Sarah and I aren't running, if Sarah and I don't win this race, it's Eddie Lucio. Who do you think he's going to vote for? Who do you think he's going to vote with when they're going through these redistricting maps? When Dan Patrick picks up the phone and says, hey, Eddie, need your help. Remember we helped raise all this money for you with Texans for Lawsuit Reform and all these other Republican interest groups that are coming down here and spending big money on you? We're going to get screwed on redistricting because of this man. We have an opportunity of a generation to reclaim this valley, to reclaim our voice. And with your help, with all of your help, we can do it. And so my request to you is join this campaign. Find us on Instagram at Ruben for Texas. Find us at Twitter. Find us on Facebook. Go to our Facebook page, RubenCortezForTexas.com. Join this movement. Join this resistance as we take Goliath down.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us.
I need a selfie with Beatrix.
Before we get done, thank you so much for joining us, Ruben. Beatrix and I are going to wrap up a couple things
Sure.
real quick. Thank you.